Okay, hi everybody. It's me, Bonka 902. Pain Dreadful, episode 4. I believe this was called Demonic Spirits in Heaven's Places or something along those lines. Now, we got a lot more in this episode. Last week was obviously the flashback with the cut wife. In this episode, we get several different plot lines. We get um, Adrian Gray, surprisingly, which is not a lot. It's just minimal. We get Dr. Frankenstein and his creature. We also get Miss Hives, which is the Miss Hives plot line. It spills out kind of in different ways, in different characters. So logistically, she explains to Malcolm and everybody else, along with Ethan, about the cut wife and what happened, and about the dead language, about the Diablo language. Now, they basically got these artifacts that they have to look through and try to decipher this dead language. And basically, the dead language, from what I understand how they explained it, goes from language to language to language. So like you have Latin into Greek into Arabic. It goes on and on and on. These are the languages this priest guy heard from the demon. The demon spoke the languages, and he just wrote it down. Now, what also happens in this episode, basically, this Hives thing is basically them deciphering the language with these artifacts, and that's basically what goes down, more or less. We have these instances, like we have a thing with Ethan, with him meeting one of the witches. We also have a thing with Dr. Frankenstein, surprisingly, and Miss Hives. That has to do with the Bride of Frankenstein, that one. Yeah. So we have that. Um, Going to, and then that's not really a big thing. That's just them going to the store to buy her a dress, and Miss Hives picks it out. He buys it, brings it to her, puts it on. Um, the thing with Ethan was kind of interesting because he thought this one who he basically rescues from getting run over by a carriage, which we kind of see in the episode. It's not a surprise to us. You see them nod to each other, the two witches and the other one witch, and they're like, "There's just nod, a basic nod of saying like, yeah, do that," and basically, um, I hate that. Anyway, basic nod, and then basically put a needle on the horse. It runs away, and she almost gets run over, and Ethan saves it. And they basically have a conversation. And Ethan thinks this person is not the witch, not a witch, but actually was sent to bring him back home to America as father. And basically, he gives her a few words and what have you. And that comes to fruition later on, towards the end of the episode. There's like climax of the episode. But yeah, that's basically at that point, which was really nothing. And this episode wasn't as crazy as last week's. A lot more dialogue, a lot more explanation. What we did get was the creature and the whole thing with him working at that place, the wax museum, which was kind of interesting. We get he basically is talking to the blind woman of the guy of the owner, the daughter of the owner, I believe. Um, and she's basically saying how she's making the head of this guy, old guy, and make sure it's wrinkly and everything, and has cloudy eyes, and he basically describing his eyes to be yellow, and they're not very good looking. Um, and I thought that conversation was kind of interesting. Also, Dr. Frankenstein's getting a little too feely with the creature's bride now. a little too feely, a little too feely. But that's probably going to come ahead towards something as we move along. And like I said, the Adrian Gray thing really didn't amount to much in this episode. He was just with her, or him, I should say. Ah! They were playing like don't I guess you could call this. I don't think it was ping pong. I think it was like table tennis. They were playing table tennis. Um, and then just had a little small talk here and there. But the real crazy part was towards the end when we basically have um and it was a real fucked up moment because they were there. The witches, they were there. You saw them. Like, it really shocked me. I was like, holy shit, what? Basically, they camouflaged themselves on a wall. And I knew something was going to happen because everything seemed so weird how frame by frame by frame you saw Ethan and that guy and they were making a cake, and you saw Sir Malcolm and another guy deciphering the ruins, and you saw Vanessa in her room. You knew something was going to go down. And sure enough, it did. They all showed up, the witches. They had a little brawl with them. And it was funny because the one that attacked Ethan says something to him. And I'm like, yo, you son of a bitch. The bitch. Basically, what they're doing there is basically they cut a piece of Vanessa's hair, which is the whole voodoo thing in action, I think. You're going to bring it back to that Madam Bullshit bitch and put it in a doll. Also, there was a scene with this madam with one of her daughters, I guess you call her, and the daughter's like shh to her, so like she's like telling her, "Don't you're getting a little too big for your britches," kind of a statement, and because she was getting a little too uppity there, kind of fucked out. But pretty much this is setting up. And there was also another scene that I thought was interesting, how you could see Vanessa straining her situation and saying how like she's some kind of trophy or what have you of a demonic journey or demonic crusade, if you will. And that was brought into what she was telling to Malcolm, and she says, "I'm tired. I want to go to bed." During that exchange, now I was talking to Anime Rick because he's probably the only guy, the only one I could think of that watches this show in the community, besides me and besides Rick, might be Otaku Assemble. But I haven't seen him done anything in like God knows how long. So I really don't know. But I think me and him are like the only ones who watch it. I think SMX Wing might be watching it too. But as far as I could tell, he was saying how he was disturbed that they might not be going into the other plot points in this show. But this episode clearly shows that they are going to. But the other plot points aren't really that major. The only major plot point. Also, I forgot to mention the detectives. They were investigating the other murder, which was the whole girl, the wife and her husband getting the throat sliced on the subway, on the train, and the baby missing, all that jazz. Was the other plot points. But the only major plot points from what I'm seeing so far in Penny Dreadful is Dr. Frankenstein and the creature and Vanessa. Those are the only two I can think of. The Adrian Gray thing isn't... It's major, but it's not totally major. He's just basically dating this woman who's a guy, who's a dude, and that's all there is to it. I mean, nothing's developed from that scenario. But I do believe eventually it's going to come ahead when Ethan finds out what the doctor did, that he resurrected that girl, and he's going to be like, what the fuck? But as of right now, nothing's coming out of it. Really, it's just really Vanessa. Until we get that other plot point going ahead. But overall rating, I give this a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, the ending was shocking to me. That was like, yo, what the fuck? And next week we see the madam. She basically's got the hair and she's gonna put it on a doll, I think, which is which is Vanessa's hair. So this is like, yo, what the fuck? So that's gonna be something. Um, where this leads to, it's anybody's guess. We'll have to wait and see. But overall, like I said, 4.5 out of 5 for this one. Next week should be interesting to say the least. Um, yeah, I truly believe, I agree with Rick here. Penny Dreadful is definitely better than Game of Thrones. There's no question. It has a better story going on. It's got more interesting characters, a more interesting plot line. I mean, come on. How many shows can show you this kind of gore and this kind of story? And especially when you consider the story about the devil. Devils, witches, voodoo dolls and possessions and evil spirits. That is on a whole different league, I think. So I definitely give Penny Dreadful a higher praise than I would say Game of Thrones, especially when you consider Game of Thrones is just not doing it to a certain extent. So, but who knows? We'll see. I'm Bob Kanato here. I'll see you guys later. Those witches are fucking crazy. Yeah, I like that part with Vanessa. She was telling the Diablo language. She was like, I'm scared. You tell the bitch back off. I'll see you guys later.